Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Wide Open Throttle. And joining me this week, Jonny Lieberman and Carlos Lago from MotorTrend, plus Freiberger and Finnegan from Roadkill. And we'll start with you guys, been causing a bit of mayhem and generating a little bit of love for the Toyota Prius.
That's always the goal, isn't it?
Did you know you can go to jail for mayhem? That's an actual charge.
It is a charge.
You get booked for mayhem.
How did you find that out?
Mayhem with a tank, how does that...
I really don't have an answer for that.
The last episode of Roadkill was one of those deals where we knew a guy with a tank, and so we had to create a storyline around that. That's really what happened.
And people, this is how Roadkill really happens. It starts with an idea like that.
We were drinking with a guy that had a tank.
That's true.
That's all it was.
The guy who owns the tank is Gene Neal and his buddy Ken, and Gene drove our camera vehicle on our trip to Alaska. He volunteered his excursion and drove, and on the way it's like, you have a tank? Dude, what do we do with the tank? And so you run over a car, obviously. What car do you run over? It's Prius. So
the anti-hot rod
the story
car.
told itself from that point forward.
There was like a countdown when we started this whole video thing to see who could run over a car with a tank first, and I'm glad it was you guys, because you guys did it right.
It was good.
So okay. So the Prius had 287,000 miles.
289.
289.
Yeah. So it had repaid its debt to the environment.
It was a
which is
cab
why
or
I feel
something,
perfectly
wasn't it?
good.
I'm just saying, how much did you pay for it?
I don't know.
6,500,
something like that.
That's one of the things about this
That's
deal
actually
is
pretty good for a car.
Oh, they were taking their
300,000
value
miles
for sure.
we had never seen it. We didn't buy it. A coworker bought it, and so when we showed up, we didn't wrench on it or anything. We just assumed, oh, it's ready to go. Let's take it around Willow Springs.
What I love is that when you came back and like it's making all this noise, the idea isn't like, let's see what's wrong. It's like, no, let's drive it till it breaks.
Of course. It was too late
Put
at
the
that
helmet
point.
on, sit in the back seat, and we're good.
It's cut out of the episode, but he comes back and I'm like, that's a death rattle. No, it's fine. No, dude, that's a death rattle. No, it's fine. All right, let's just
We
go.
weren't going to fix it at that point.
We weren't going to
And
fix
then
it.
what ultimately blew? The oil pan blew out?
We think it threw a rod,
It
but
windowed
you know,
the block. It put a window in the block.
You can't see.
But you can't see. I mean, and honestly, as much as I've worked on cars, I crawled under that thing and couldn't identify an engine block anywhere. I mean, it came out of the bottom. It could have been the differential or something. But regardless, it made fire. It didn't run anymore. It gave us a great excuse to smash it.
Yeah, but what I did like was that you did attempt to set up some sort of serious premise for the episode. In other words, that the Toyota Prius was less environmentally friendly than that dirtbag old...
AMC Gremlin.
Which isn't a very solid argument, by the way.
It is.
No,
Here's why.
I don't want to hear it. Don't tell me your Hummer's better for the environment than your
This
Prius.
is completely legitimate, and I've made this argument many times. The AMC produced less pollution to manufacture, and that pollution has long since been amortized. It's gone.
I don't know.
It's a done deal. The horse
It's
left
older.
the barn.
It's totally older. I'll give you that. I don't think that whole argument about it less pollution to manufacture, I don't necessarily buy that.
Come
Especially
on.
like Kenosha, Wisconsin back then, like God knows what, they were probably burning trees.
Let's
to
say it
smelt
was
the metal. I mean,
Let's say it was horrible. It's still long since amortized. It's gone.
I agree with
I'll
that.
be honest, I just wanted to run over a car, and I didn't care what kind of car it was.
Does this mean that there will never ever be a hybrid hot rod?
There are hybrid hot rods from the factory. Whether somebody will take one and hop one up is the question.
Well, there are guys racing electric cars.
There
They're
are,
hot
sure.
rodding, 10-second
It's a
cars.
micro niche. I mean, it's 12 guys somewhere.
So we're not going to see a 32 Ford with an electric motor.
I have seen a 32 Ford with an electric motor.
And were you excited?
No. A huge part of hot rodding, let's be honest, has nothing to do with performance. It has nothing to do with practicality. It's all about emotion. And people in our marketplace do not have an emotional attachment to things that don't make noise.
I'm interested too. I mean, the Gremlin was, how should we put it? Well, it actually, you expressed surprise that it actually ran. This is part of the hot rodding ethos, is it?
Yeah.
It's part of his, because he owns so many cars that just sit there for years that
Yeah.
he is surprised when they finally
A
start
guy
up
posted
again.
lately, how many more episodes can you do with cars that Freiberger's had sitting around for 5 years? The thing is, it's a bottomless well.
My question is, since it wasn't running, like, why not drop a 390 or some big, AMC V80?
Well, we would, but my point here, which is tongue-in-cheek, is that you buy that old economy car, and ultimately, how long does it take if you were to buy a new Prius for it economically to make up the difference?
Never. But there's some people that hate the idea of giving money to gas companies. That's why Priuses and Teslas and Volts make sense. You don't have to buy a lot of gas.
And that brings the conversation back around because that's an emotional decision. They're
Sure.
buying that car because of who they want to look like to their friends.
Of course.
You know?
I don't know. I'm not arguing with that.
Honestly, I would have much rather drop a blown big block into that Prius than smash it, but because we only have 2 days to do this.
Well, there are a number of people who said that that would have been cool to have had to build a sleeper Prius with a big block in there and just turn up at the lights and smoke people.
We found a Prius club that was having a meet in Sedona, Arizona, and we were dying.
We talked about driving
a
and buying
nitro burning fuel
low
motor.
alcohol, like getting single-digit fuel economy and driving right past their car club meeting.
So I guess the really big important question that everyone wants to know is, what does Roadkill do now? How do you top a tank?
You don't.
Here's one thing.
It's over. The show's over.
Here's one thing.
There's no.
We're done. Canceled. Move on.
Dude, what are we gonna do?
The thing we have learned, interestingly enough, is to not reveal what the next Roadkill is. We were doing that on our Facebook page. We were teasing the next episode, and everybody said to us, "No, we don't want to know. We want to wait till it comes out."
Well, the problem with that is you reveal it now, and then we don't actually pull that off, and we're screwed.
Right. That's
Which is real normal. Yeah, that's a protective strategy. But no, we have not yet come up with the topper.
Okay, shifting gears slightly, BMW M6 Gran Coupe, and I think, Johnny, you've just driven the car and come back raving about it.
Yeah, kind of much to my surprise because, we've driven the M5, the M6, the M6 convertible, and I'm not stating anything new. We didn't like them. Like the M division has lost its way. I mean, they make, with the exception of the M3, every car they make is well over 4,000 pounds. So I went in thinking, okay, this is going to be just like the M6, which it's all right. It's fast in a straight line, it's luxurious, but it's not the point and shoot kind of fun M cars we're used to. And I don't know, they added like a secret sauce to this one and something slightly different, and it's great. It's just fun. It's a fun car.
Well, some of us we found with the M6 Coupe, I mean, the car it just feels heavy. There's a lot of weight in the car, but you feel the weight in the car. The front end doesn't quite, it goes away earlier than you expect, and then if you turn everything off, it's the rear tires are overwhelmed by that engine.
Yeah, there's a vagueness, a heaviness to the car, and a difficult sense that you can't really place it on the road. And those are traits that I would never use to describe any M3. They're the opposite of what those cars
Or any
they should be.
M-Division product,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I mean,
Well, those cars always used to be about finesse, The M cars were Mozart compared with AMG's Wagner. It was like, the AMG car's very fast in a straight line, but don't ask too much about it.
It was a hammer. I mean, into a hammer, the whole
Hammer
world's
of
a
the
nail.
gods, the whole thing. But this car has allegedly 560 horsepower. Now, we've known people who've dynoed them independently and produced 660 horsepower.
Yeah, 660
At the
crank.
wheels?
No,
Not
crank.
At the crank.
It's a twin turbo V8.
It's a twin turbo V8. I mean, the thing, it's a rocket ship.
It better make that much.
You have a 4,500 pound rear wheel drive object that can hit 60 in 4 seconds.
No, but you've got 3 different settings for steering, 3 different settings for suspension, 3 different settings for throttle, and 3 different settings for transmission.
That's what I'm
And
talking
3
about.
different settings for stability control, too.
So how many possible permutations are there?
125.
So
Are you just that good?
he's had to learn all this. My point is not all of them can be good. So why offer them?
I agree. Have an opinion, right? You're the M division. Here's how our car is, and you can turn off the traction control. But like, have an opinion, right? You design cars.
Do you think that they're trying to be like, this is for the car guy who wants to be like the Formula One engineer. So I want to go out and I want to spec my car, tune my car for this track.
Yeah, Highway 198 needs suspension mode 2 and throttle mode. No.
There's very few of those guys. Remember the Aventador had 3 modes and only one of them was fun?
Right.
And I don't speak Italian, my memory sucks, so I don't know the name of it. But
Strada.
you just
It was Strada.
Okay, you just put it in
Porsche
Strada and you had a good time. It never went back in any of those other modes. So. And that was just 3.
So here's the other point about this car too, and we get this all the time. I mean, I like dual clutch transmissions, paddle shifts, because that's the way you get to go faster. The car, that sort of technology makes you quicker around a racetrack. But there are a lot of people who say that takes the fun out of driving. Now, I still like a stick shift. It's great if you've got all day to go somewhere and you're not in a hurry and you like driving a classic car. So where are you guys on that? So do you find paddle shift boring?
No, not at all. I mean, and I haven't driven too many of them, but the Aventador was a blast to drive because it didn't stop you from doing anything stupid. It literally, you're in 7th gear and you want to go to 2nd, fine, tap, 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 and you're there. I mean, and it was amazing to hear that thing just scream to $8 grand. But I'm fine with it. But I still enjoy a clutch, just not in traffic.
I'm conflicted on it because I want to believe that I'm the guy that is such a master of a regular old stick shift that I can guffaw at that stuff. But the fact is, those cars make me a better driver.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing too, is what a lot of people don't get about a good dual clutch, is that you're in control. Like, you have control, and it's like, with on like a track when you're going to shift, it's like, okay, you're horked over, where's my left leg? Oh, I'm bracing my body, so now I need to like shift to get my foot ready to clutch, then shift, then clutch out, or you go and you shift to gears. Like, it's, I don't, like, and again, like, manual's totally fun, but
Let's get back to emotion. It's not the romance of being Mark Donahue in a Javelin heel-toe downshifting your force speed.
Yeah, but for a whole new generation of people, it's the romance of being Sebastian Vettel in a Formula One car.
Sure.
Right.
Okay, well, talking about dual clutches, let's shift gears again and go to Porsche Cayman. And Carlos, you've just been driving the Cayman S with the PDK, and
It is a lovely, wonderful little car. There is just a balance in that car between grip and horsepower and everything that makes the thing just absolutely delightful. When I'm in that car, I just want to find curvy roads all day. That's all I want to do. So it's not very a productive car, I guess, but it is great. It is
But
great.
didn't you want more horsepower? I mean, 325 just
325
Really
around
that
town
fun?
is fine. 325 on a mountain road's fine. It's when you're really at the limit and that tail end is stepping out and you can't, control it with the throttle so much. You think, yeah, okay, I could use another 40 pound-feet. But 90% of the time, no, because what it is, it's not the
That's a quarter pound of boost.
if you want the kill you in the face horsepower, they have cars that do that. But the overall balance and the sensation of control that car has as a whole is what I love so much.
But what does it cost?
Well, that one is insane because the base price is something like 65.
you can't buy one.
But this had about 40 grand options in it. It was $101,000, and it had every single option in the world on it.
So does that average Porsche buyer buy the balance and the precision driving experience, or the
they
big
buy a
horsepower
911.
number?
They buy a 911. You'd buy a 911.
Well, this is the great conspiracy theory, isn't it? That Porsche's deliberately keeping a lid on the
Of course
Cayman.
they are, though. I mean, like it's like, yes, you want your not as expensive car to not be as good as your more expensive
Yeah, so
car.
a Cayman
I don't
S-
see this as a conspiracy. It's, to me, it's like it's a business plan.
It's marketing, is that
Well,
what
it's
you're
a
saying?
business plan.
The
no,
Cayman
I mean-
S versus the Carrera S, it's $30,000 cheaper. Base price to base price. Of course it's going to be slower. Of course it's not going to have, Carrera S levels of
And
performance.
I'm one of the. I mean, I know how you two feel, but I argue that I think the 911 actually has much better suspension. It's better damped. I like the way it drives better.
Well, the new 991,
Yeah,
they
the 991.
have made a real step change in terms of body control and that sort of management of the cars in dynamic state. But you can't alter the laws of physics. The Cayman chassis is better balanced because the engine is in the middle. It's between the wheels, not hung out the back like a brick on a string.
Balance is so overrated. I mean,
Balance is overrated.
Who needs balance? Yeah, or it's I don't know. I like rear-engine cars. I think they're
But
fun.
you might have something there, because I mean, if you're not on a racetrack and your goal is not to be the quickest guy around a racetrack and you're just driving it on the street, the engine in the back is fun,
Until you
With a lot of
pop up
horsepower.
over the crest on a cold, wet night and the road suddenly goes left or right.
Well,
Yeah,
if
but-
you've got that car, you've probably got a Bentley or something, and someone else driving you in it on that cold and rainy night.
Or alternately, I would say that the 991 doesn't do that as much as, say, the 964 did.
Yes.
They've sort of reeled it in.
They've made it work. They made a
Yeah.
flawed solution work really well.
Yeah, and I mean, and I know it's horrible to talk about livability in a sports car, but having that little backseat in the 911 is game changer. Like that's why the Corvette, because the Corvette's basically a pickup truck with a top. That's why they're great. No,
Same
I
with
mean
suspension.
in terms of interior, right? I mean, you can put like 4 golf bags in the back of a Corvette. Like, it's useful. You can use it. Same with a 911, whereas like a Cayman, okay, you can get 2 grocery bags. That's sort of cool. But
So you're saying $100,000 for a 325 horsepower mid-engine coupe's not a good deal?
I couldn't see it, but
This is from the guy, by the way, whose magazine runs photos of hot rods that are barely drivable that have cost $1 million to build.
I told you, they look cool. And that I personally am equally opposed to, trust me.
Let me tell you a few things that you'll even matter.
me?
$7 grand for a stereo in that car.
Which?
Oh, in the Cayman.
In the Cayman.
Yeah.
$7 grand for the stereo.
$7 grand
I
for
know
the
you're not
brakes,
into
too.
I can drive for a
Burmeister.
year on $7 grand.
Wow. What? A Gremlin?
Sure.
Well, but I mean, that's a good
I
point,
rest my
though.
case.
It didn't have to be $100 grand.
Well, let's go this way.
It's still 70 something.
What's the least expensive car that you've tested that gives you a similar driving experience? as that?
Either the BRZ or the FRS, which is about 27,000.
BRZ.
So where does that extra 70 grand go?
Oh, so many different ways.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The build quality.
Actually, I'm gonna go with David on this one. To me, like they kind of feel about as quick. I mean, I know that the Porsche is faster than the BRZ, but like actually, once you're moving like on a road, it's not that much quicker. Yeah, that's a very good point.
if you weren't valet parking it at a really nice restaurant, would you be having just as much fun in the BRZ?
Well,
Close.
you'd
I'd say
probably have a
close.
bad time in the Cayman because there'd be a guy with a 911 there too, and you'd be like, oh.
Well, no, they put the Cayman in the back, right. But that's a good point.
That is an interesting, but you know that's what the whole car industry is predicated on. It's all about persuading people to spend money they can't afford to buy something they don't really need. Right. And if it was purely about a rational business,
Golf
we'd all
diesel.
be
Golf
we'd all be
diesel.
driving the same thing.
Golf diesel.
Hot Rod Magazine's 100% about things that no one needs.
You're so lucky you get to say that.
You don't need this magazine.
We're only like 70% about things that no
You know
one
what?
needs.
You don't need it, but it's your life. That's the difference.
Which is
know?
weird.
Which is why you're weird.
Yep.
And you have weird friends. Very few of them,
That's
too.
why it's worth living.
Okay, and on that note, we're wrapping up Wide Open Throttle for this week. Thanks for joining us, and make sure you tune in next week.